LeBron, what the fuck are you talking about? So LeBron basically on his thing, his podcast with Steve Nash, basically talked about ring culture and how do we even get to that spot? How do we even here? How you gonna tell me that some people can't sit at the table just because they don't have rings and all this other stuff? Like you're not gonna say that a Charles Barkley or and you put like Steve Nash, or you're not gonna tell me that Peyton Manning, who has two, even though he said one Super Bowl rings, can't. I was like, it's over here different than Tom Brady, who has five, or Pat Mahomes can't sit there, or you can't tell me that Dan Marino not over here slinging it with the best of them. And I'm just like, yo, what you talking about? What are we doing here? Like, do I think that ring culture has gotten out of hand, figuratively and literally? Yeah, but I think also at the same time, I'm like, my boy, you're tripping. Because, one, I was like, and I feel like a lot of people have already done talked about this. The fact that it's like, hey, you went down to Miami. Why? Because of rings. If it didn't matter at the time, then you wouldn't have gone. I was like, we could say, oh, you know what? Maybe you could even like maybe we could maybe in our mind be like, oh, okay, that was a different time. So like maybe that's when maybe he was, and then he realized like, hey, nah, ring's not everything. Except for in Cleveland, I was like, you want to win, right? You wanted to win for your city. So you make a whole bunch of trade to put around a good enough team so that you could win rings. You also said before that you're chasing ghosts. There's only really one ghost we chasing. So if you want to now see, the thing is, if he wanted to make a point about rings not necessarily like like we hype up the rings too much and we put too much on rings and things like that, yada yada yada, then I feel like, yeah, if you want to bring out the fact that we don't really celebrate Tim Duncan and his rings, we don't really celebrate Bill Russell and his rings and stuff like that, then I think you will have a point there that about the ring culture that everybody talks about being really somewhat BS and really just a prop of Jordan. Cool, I would be totally on board. But now that your window pretty much is done on getting another ring, I feel like now we're just sort of reaching for things where it's like, what LeBron does is sort of this physical, like philosophy way of thinking of the physiological stuff type of thinking of like where it's like you sound like so profound and it's like, whoa. Then I was like, then this is bullshit when we get back to the real world, because hey, bro, you 40, you win another title, it isn't gonna happen, especially if you're gonna probably be the main focus. So what we talking about of like now we're like rings thing. I was like, you went to LA, a place where a guy named Kobe Bryant was at. That was what? Trying to do what? Be the man, chase ring, get ring. Without Shaq and being like his idol Michael Jordan. Like you can't go to the place that a guy that is always thought of being like, yo, he trying to top Jordan. He almost got close. He always was in it for a ring than Kobe. You can't like you're in the wrong place for that type of thinking about like basically, because basically what you're sort of saying is like, hey yo, rings don't matter. If you great, right? Yeah, why does all this other type of bullshit matters in any type of field? What I was like, oh, you employee of the month, who get a damn? We're all good employees. You won best album, who get a damn? Everybody got the best album. You can't tell me. I was like I'm like, you can still celebrate all these people that are great and still not, say, yeah, but he's not this guy. Like I said, like the argument to me is basically if you rings was all be end all be all, that it's like, hey, Joe Flacco the same thing as Aaron Rodgers. They both got one, right? Nope. Eli Manning I was like has two. He the same thing as Peyton Manning, right? No. So when we talk about these things, it's like you can still have the conversations of like talk about somebody's greatness while also talking about like, yeah, but this person of the greats, because that's what we're talking about, of the greats. What were they able to do? Who did they match up with? Damn, they matched up with somebody who else was great. Like Charles Barkley went up against Jordan. It ain't like he lost to just like a whole bunch of nobodies or nothing like that. He lost against Jordan, who guess what, get to add to his collection, while Charles doesn't get to add to his collection. Like, to me, like I said, the argument should be if you over here just being like, why do these people get to be with these people if they got the same amount of rings? But then again, we're still gonna be able to say because we know the level of greatness. We know what we see. We know what we see. We know what we see. You want to be one of the greatest. So guess what helps in that field? Your rings. Because if it was just over here, just like, oh, you the scoring champion. Okay, cool. But that's not what it's about. LeBron, your legacy has to do with rings. And guess what? I was like, you didn't get to Jordan. You still had a hell of a career. I was like, you still got pretty far. You matched up against some hard ass teams. Do I think some of the stuff is unfair that has to do with, the rings and stuff like that? And I think it's really unfair to a lot of these younger players to where they're having to live on that, where it's like the NBA is really weird right now, where just like we're not going to get the amount of same people in the finals, at least right now. We got to see how this all goes and see if Pacers, Oklahoma City come back next year. But at the same time, we haven't been getting the repeats, so therefore it's a little bit harder to see if they'll have the championships right there. But right now, everybody just seems to be like, hey, you got one, you sort of good in our books. All right, would we like Giannis and Joker to have more? Sure, but they got the one. They go that money off their back. They good. Everybody else. So I was like, that's where I think the ring culture thing is a little too much. Is on like these players where it's just like, yo, he's only been in the league 5 years. But the problem is that when you keep having new champion after new champion after new champion after new champion, it does. I was like, it will make it be like, I think it's going to be even. I was like, it's going to be worse because of that. Because now it's going to be like, well, back then I could understand when it was dynasties and same teams coming through or whatever. I was like, we was harsh on them, but it's gonna be even worse now because it's like, if everybody could just flip out every year, why can't you? I know this went to like a whole nother thing about basically went from like what the hell LeBron talking about to basically ring culture, and then I was like trying to help him, I guess, in this point or whatever. But going back to him, what you talking about, LeBron? Anyway, that was just me ranting because I thought that was just sort of like dumb. That's when I feel like somebody trying to be smarter than what the situation really needs to be. Where it's just like, it ain't that damn deep. We all know what we see. Guess what? You're at the end of your rope, so you're gonna over here try to dodge the hell out that situation. It is what it is, bro. Rings is what it is, and if we're gonna hold a ring as the highest thing, Jordan and Brady are gonna be held up in high ass regard until somebody decides to take them down. Football, I was like, if somebody overdo Brady, even Mahomes, I was like, they'll be looked at as like, oh my God, look at that quarterback. Basketball, I think it's going to be difficult because not only is getting 6 rings going to be hella difficult as we just keep on progressing, but also you're never probably going to be or overshadow Michael Jordan. I think you could do that with Tom Brady, but I don't think you could do that with Michael Jordan. So ring culture, I was like, I think it'll die out at some point, just because after a while we'll see. Not everybody can do it. But anyway, what do you think? LeBron said was some bull. It was bull, wasn't it? I think it was bull. I was like, mainly because we were talking about Jordan. on the Bulls. I'm gonna leave now. I'm out.